Okay, first we'll start with my potatoes. These are my potatoes in the Rubbermaid tubs. We'll see if that works out. It's kind of an experiment. Here's my watermelon patch. See my watermelons. They're not grown yet, but they're a lot bigger than they were last week. And I don't know how that's going to work. It's the first time I've ever grown those. But they've grown 3 times in size since last week. And there's my pretty cucumber and melon patch that is taking over the sidewalk area and trying to come over into the watermelon patch, so I got to get in there probably the next couple days and try to calm them down and put them up my trellis here. We built a trellis out of cement wire, and then I'm trying pineapple. I don't know if I did that right, but a friend of mine told me to bury a pineapple, and I doubt it's in deep enough pots, but I'm trying. There's some onions. Here's my pitiful looking strawberry plant. It's starting to grow back, but it got a little bit of, I don't know, scorched. And there's another one that's doing decently good. There's another one. And here's my great big huge cabbages. I grew way too many cabbages this year. And they're taking over everything. And here's another strawberry basket that I put in crates from my church pantry. More onions in pots. More cabbages. More cabbages. And look, there's a little cabbage head coming through. And there's another tiny one growing. A couple of them. More cabbages. I think that's a cabbage. It's kind of growing straight up, though. It's kind of weird. And there's more cabbages there. There's my row of kale. I planted stuff too close together, but look at that beautiful kale. That'll make great kale chips. And here's my basket of parsley. More onions. Here's some peppers. See the little pepper growing? And then more peppers in pots. I've planted all my peppers in pots this year. And there's violas. They're edible. And there's more peppers. See the little hot peppers? These are chili hot peppers. There's more peppers. There's a little celery growing. I had a row of celery, but they end up getting taken over by the squash. I didn't know squash took so much room. It's first year growing squash. And there's another cucumber patch. This is all cucumbers. The other one was melons, mostly melons, but a little bit of cucumbers. And then over here in front of Noble's room is a bunch of different kinds of hot peppers. It's a table full of hot peppers. And then here's a table full of herbs. Doing pretty good. And then here is my overgrown squash patch. As you can see, I got my whole yard is, and I got little squash growing in there. And probably snakes too. They say snakes like cabbage, so we'll see. And then here's my beautiful kale again. I picked some off on this side. And I got little tomato plants growing up from last year in between. See, there's a tomato plant. And of course weeds too. And some of my broccoli went to seed before I could even get to it. But here's a beautiful broccoli. Look how beautiful that one is. That'll be picked. And that one will be picked on the next day. Probably tonight before it goes to seed. And all this is broccoli. And here's more melons. You see there's a tomato plant growing up in my melons. And there's my carport work area. And all those over there are my tomatoes. We'll go over there and check those out. Go over here to a table I have where strawberries are doing pretty good. That's a strawberry plant. There's a strawberry basket. More onions. I'm trying to grow garlic, but I still haven't been able to get it to grow. I planted this strawberry plant, didn't do well, so I planted another pineapple down in it and see how it would do. And there's a bunch of onion pots. And here's all kinds of tomatoes staked up. All my tomato plants staked up here. Oh, I can just smell the leaves. They smell so good. And I planted some basil next to it. I don't know if you can see the little purple basil. Kind of buried down in there. It's supposed to make the tomatoes taste sweeter. And I've already got little green tomatoes growing. I've picked a couple little red ones off, but they're not really growing yet. It's just not been hot enough for them. But they'll end up growing big soon. And this experiment here, some of these are from last year. I didn't plant this green tomato plant here. It came up from seed from last year. And but I planted corn, zucchini, and green beans together to sister planting in the same hole. And the corn and the zucchini are coming up beautifully. Some of it, especially the zucchini. But I don't see any green beans yet, so I don't think I'm going to get any green beans. I don't like green beans much anyway. Just an experiment. And then there's another tomato plant growing up in the middle. It's a couple hanging cucumber plants that I bought at the farmer's market. There's a hanging tomato plant I made. And another one that's dying. Here's my green pepper plants in pots. Getting green peppers already. Another one. And here's my tomato plants in baskets. I thought I'd try. They're getting big too. But I thought I'd give that a try to see how they work. Here's some more green or tomato plants that grew up from last year. These will be those little cherry tomato plants that are so good. They took over my garden last year. Now they're starting to do the same thing. Here's my flower bed. I got a bunch of flowers. Real pretty little pink flowers back here, but most of them are dying off. See the little pink? They were just full bloom, but now they're not blooming. Now that all the flowers are dead on them. So, but that's all right. They'll grow some more, I'm sure. And then I don't know what this is called, but it was one I planted last year. And here's another beautiful big one that I planted last year. It was a real little tiny thing last year, but I love it. So it looks like grass with yellow flowers. There's another little purple one, but it's getting overtaken. Oh, there's a weed. Get that thing out of there. Oh, there's I don't know what that is. Praying mantis or... I hate when weeds grow in my flowers. But they do. And then here's another real pretty rose bush. Getting some pretty flowers off of those. See that pretty rose? Here's something I planted this year. I don't know what it is, but it was pretty. It had some flowers on it. And there's a rose bush I think I killed. I planted it too, or it'll probably come back next year. I think I cut it too much. And then I don't know what this is, but it's a perennial. And there's some grassy looking perennial stuff and some purple, real pretty purple flowers. Here's another rose bush. Some of the roses are dying, but they'll all come back. Here's another real pretty bush that has some pink, pretty flowers. And then this is one of my favorite plants is lavender bushes. They smell so good. Next to that, I have another perennial yellow looking flower. It's getting overtaken. And another rose bush that some of the roses are dying off. And this had some pretty flowers on it, but the flowers are dying on it. It's something new I planted actually, I think. And then here's one of my favorite flowers too. I don't know what it's called, but it's got really pretty orange blooms. And another perennial here. And another one. And this is my white rose bush. Some of the roses are dying off, but some of them are growing. That thing I cut back and it was little down to here. Now look how grown it's getting already. And this is my blueberry bush. I'm going to have to replant those because they're not in sunny enough area. And I'm going to turn this whole area here into a herb patch. Turn some of it in the sidewalk, this grassy area, half in the sidewalk, and then take out these bushes, replant those blueberry bushes in the pots, and redo this whole area into herb patches. Because right now I keep my herbs along here and my pitiful lettuce. Here's my great big dill plant and my water catcher. And there's kind of a view of the whole garden. With my garage. I got another water drain barrel back in the back. And here's some more lettuce. I've got some good lettuce out of some of this stuff. But I did it containers. Next year I might make it part of my herb patch. And here's some more herbs. My mints are doing real good. I'll make me a whole mint patch. And here's something else I tried to do to start this year. These are my kiwi plants. And we built this trellis that they will eventually cover. It'll all be green. But there's my male and female kiwi plants. And I brought them when they were little, and they've gotten that big. And then I got my two little green or grape vines starting. I don't know when they'll take off. But here's another view. See how pretty my garden is from the side. And going out front, I grew some apple trees. See my apple trees? And this is where I had some hedge bushes that covered my front porch. And I planted some more lavender bushes because they just really grow well. Just to kind of landscape around. I have some little flowers I got from Mother's Day that were left over from Mother's Day. I planted in the front, but in the middle there's blackberry bushes, and they're doing really well. They were little. I had two little sticks I was trying to grow from, but they didn't do well. So next year I'm going to plant more in the middle, two more in the middle, along with these blackberries. There's another blackberry bush, and all my little pretty flowers, and then 3 more lavender bushes, which will be really big like the other one next year. And then my apple trees, my $50 apple trees. So we will see how well they do. I got to come and pluck off the apples tonight. Trying to keep them watered, and hopefully they'll take. If not, then I'll try something else next year. And then there's my little apple tree that I think will definitely grow. I started that one from a stick, and I had sticks in this one, but they didn't take, so I just bought 2 trees. But this one definitely is taking. Of course, I found out I don't know if they're all early, middle, or late bloomers, so I don't know if this one here will even survive. Hopefully. But there's my flower bed in the front, my blackberry bed is what I call it. So that's my garden.